for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
My name is Jack Prince, your fellow co-host.
Well, how are you feeling today, Jack?
I'm feeling all right, Darren.
All right, I am too. I've been staying hunkered down as much as I can, go out late at night for grocery shopping, basically stay home, which is pretty much what I've been doing for several years now. Just kind of self-isolating there. So, but that's what having mental illness will do. It helps you prepare for stuff like this. I'm kind of half joking, but I'm kind of serious about it.
Well, it does present a change of life for many people, and what you have experienced or what you're sharing with us could be a help. It's not all bad. I do find myself able to do things I would have never spent the time doing. But as I said before the show to you, these are the best days. These are the days where it looks pretty normal, besides the dire warnings. Mm-hmm. Looking ahead a couple months, I don't know if we're going to be as positive, Darren.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. Right now, before we get into the meat of our show, a couple of reminders that you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws there. You can also listen to us on the iTunes Store. Do a search under Podcast for Southpaws, and once you found our logo, you found us. All of our podcasts are automatically sent to our Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com, do a search for Southpaws Radio there, and you'll find us there as well. We're also on great Pacifica stations across the country, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri. Got to give a shout-out to WRFI, Ithaca, New York. They downloaded our last episode and aired us on Monday. I think we were substituting for Tom Hartman. I guess there must have been a download issue or something, or they wanted to give us a try. So just want to give a shout-out to the folks at WRFI, Ithaca, New York. And, of course, we're on Global Community Radio Channel 1. We're on every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you check us out there as well. Well, before we get on with the coronavirus update, before we started recording this show, I received an alert that the Internal Revenue Service has extended the tax filing deadline to July 15th. So you now have an extra 3 months to file your income taxes because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And actually, right before you called me to kind of fill me in on what we were going to talk about today, Jack, I actually got a call from my therapist, and they have suspended face-to-face counseling. So for the time being, it looks like my counseling is going to be over the phone.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, everything is being changed, but the society keeps grinding on. It's just a matter of the longevity of the entire situation. I mean, you've got kids home, and for a few days, it's fine. It's school I'm talking about, away from school. But as the weeks grind on, as the numbers get worse, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but, you know, it's a long haul, and the experts are making it sound even more bothersome. When I said the other day, these are the best days, I had a friend come to me and say, you know what, I think I'll catch the virus tomorrow. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, at least I know I'd get in bed. If I wait 2 months from now, we're up into the hundreds of thousands, because we're already at 10,000. There'll be no bed. There'll be no space. And I think he had a point. You know, we're going to tackle this virus as a society depending upon its leadership. And our leadership has been ass backwards. Mm-hmm. So we've got a bad start. We're getting false information, false confidence. What did you think of the senators who on one side of their mouth talked about how copacetic everything was, how it was under control, talking about the virus, but in the meantime, we're bailing on stock, and that includes both party members, Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute here. A couple more updates that are going on right now before we get on with everything else here. Last night, which was Thursday night, California's governor ordered a hunker down order for every citizen in California. 40 million people are now under a stay-home order.
Is there any penalty if they catch you out in the street or going to the store? Or?
Well, going to the store is one thing. If you're out in the street for no reason, you're not going to work in a required field or going to the grocery store or whatever, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be fines and tickets. That's what Italy has done. That's what Spain is doing right now, because the whole country of Spain is under lockdown as well as Italy.
It's just a matter of time.
It is. And we've got a big country here. A lot more landmass than anything in Europe, by far.
Yeah. And, it's like walking in a canyon. The walls are getting closer and closer and closer. The ability to move around, the very things that we consider to be normal are moving in on us. I think the warning that this senator or governor in California, had was that the amount of people he expected in his own state was 25 million for infection.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wow. So that's percentage-wise, that's over 50, maybe 60% of the population.
They actually gave the figure of 56%. So I took that figure, 56%, and the U.S. population is about 330 million people. That comes out to 185 million people if things continue the way that they are.
If you take 2% of that, which is a low percentage of the amount of people that are fatalities from the infection list, 2% of 150 million, right, is, help me out there.
About 4 million. About 4 million.
Yeah.
And some
2.2.
And some countries are seeing higher rates of fatality.
I'm saying, what is it going to look like when Trump, who said initially that this would be taken care of in a couple of days, or just the other day said that the economic recovery, the bounce back to the stock market, is not that far off. It's going to be better. You tell me where you can look through the clouds through 2 million fatalities and tell me where the stock market's going to crawl out of a hole. Let's be realistic about this. I mean, seriously. You can't expect to think we can recover through months and months of unemployment and the hospitals being overrun and deaths and be counting the day stock market balloons again. It's insanity.
It is. As a matter of fact, since you mentioned it, there was a story that just came out Friday morning at Inside Radio, which is a trade publication. They're estimating that the car market is going to crater about 41% just for March alone.
Yeah.
And that's just one industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. You're looking at not recession, you're looking at depression. They're talking unemployment rates commensurate with the stock October crash, the Great Depression. That's what we're headed for.
Yeah, I think we are too. I'm not trying to be a doomsday person, but I'm just telling you how it is. I'm telling you how it was. I mean, look, 1918 to 20 in this country, we had the Spanish flu epidemic, and it killed millions of people. This is what we're facing, folks. Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. How many times have we said that on this show?
And yet Trump continues to call this a Chinese epidemic.
Yeah, the Chinese flu. Yeah, the Wuhan flu, and that's bullshit. It's not. It is COVID-19. It's the coronavirus.
When the virus landed here inside the shores of the United States, it said, hey, wow, this is going to be easy pickings. All they have is a propped up parachute of medical safety, and it's full of holes. It's half fake. It's a fraud. It's been gutted by the decades of conservative policies It's as phony as when they landed in Katrina and FEMA tried to rally the troops. It's a myth. All the promises have come out of Trump's mouth, the increased testing, which none of it has materialized. All of the kumbaya, copacetic crap that he's tried to push out while his fellow governors are selling stock, it's going to come crashing down. But answer me this, Darren. How can he get a poll approval last night of 55% of Americans think he's handling this crisis properly?
Because people are stupid. People are that stupid, yes.
You have to marvel. That's staggering.
It is.
55%.
Yep. And
they're ready to shoot themselves right smack in the foot again. They'll draw a target right on the top of their foot, take aim, and applaud. Okay, there's one possible good thing. It would be the demise of Trump.
Yeah.
Yet his approval rating went up from 43% to 55%. And like Darren just said, that's how stupid we are. You want to see a litmus test? There it is in numbers.
Yeah. All right. I want to read you this, Jack. This is a post from Saul Tessler on his Facebook. He is in Spain right now. And I've been to Spain. It's a gorgeous country. I mean, the people are wonderful there. It's gorgeous, heavy concentrations of cities, and then you drive out in the country, and there's nothing literally for miles and miles and miles. So I want to read you his post. He's currently in Spain right now. It says, "Hi everyone. Some of you have asked for another update as it seems the United States is just a week or two behind. Germany is catching up on the numbers. It gets more serious by the hour, and we may all be facing the same challenges soon. Things are changing at lightning speed. There is now a full military lockdown nationwide. Like Italy, the police have started giving fines if they catch you outside without cause. When you go to the grocery store, you stand 1 meter away from the person in front and wait to go in. The cap is 50 or 100 people per grocery store, depending on the size, etc. Many people are opting for food delivery, and when the pizza man leaves the pizza at the door, contactless, he's wearing a full hazmat suit. There are some games locals would play the last few days to socialize, but the police are catching on. Couples would leave home but walk on opposite sides of the street so they don't appear to be from the same house. Dog walking is seen as a hygienic necessity, so the building dog was walked 30 times a day by every neighbor. Trash runs multiple times a day seemed like a good idea. The police are getting to know the routines. You have to show them your ID, and the same people are assigned to a block, so they learn the personalities. In Madrid, they use some drones and robotic vehicles to tell people to go back inside or disinfect a street corner. Spain has states like the U.S., but they are broken into autonomous regions, each having a president, and in many cases a unique language. Barcelona is in Catalonia. The president of Catalonia now has coronavirus. The vice president of Catalonia has it as well. The wife of the president of Spain has it. I think the only difference between them and us is we're not getting tested. Spain has issued 30,000 plus tests so far, about 12 times ahead of the U.S. if you factor in size. That said, it's not enough. 3,000 people are waiting to get tested in Madrid. If you call the hotline with symptoms, they tell you to write it out unless it worsens or is considered high risk. As the cases double, so do government restrictions. More borders closing. I suspect domestic travel will stop soon. Private hospitals are being told to serve public overflow. Retired or non-practicing medical personnel are helping. Extra hotel rooms for extra patients, etc. It seems from a distance we are starting to follow many of the measures of containment China took. There are some insights. Every night at 8, everyone gets on their balconies and cheers for the medical staff. There is still laughter and bonding with police and neighbors. There is full sick pay for infected or contained workers. It's not grim, but that resolve to protect at-risk people strengthens. I'll read more updates on life here as they come. Until then, be safe, everyone. And again, his name is Saul Tessler, and he's a U.S. citizen living in Madrid, Spain.
Again, portent of the future. I've seen a list, a comparison of the numbers. We almost mirrored Italy exactly, day by day, for 10 days. The increase in death. And then all of a sudden, in the last 2 or 3 days, we just start escalating.
Yep.
It can be figured out. All of these experts up on that stage, all those military uniforms, which is supposedly some kind of validity for competence, all those people up there, they've been asking various ways, including the doctor, the nice little doctor, give us some numbers. Give us a projection. And they can't do it. They can't do it. But the truth is, they know. They just, like a stock market broker, you ask somebody, hey, what's the future of the stock market? Oh, history shows that you need to keep your money in there. Meanwhile, he's bailing out like hell on the floor, although the floor's closed now. We're not getting a clear picture. I applaud the people who have enough courage to stand up and say, this is how bad it's going to be. I'm going to throw some numbers out there that are based on the trajectory in Italy and Spain, the way this virus works. You can take these percentages, and you're going to be pretty close.
Exactly.
You don't have to be in the dark on this. You don't have to be wondering or thinking, hey, maybe the kids will be back in school 2 weeks from now because the grant was pressed that they'll be back April 10th. Don't pack the lunchbox.
Yeah, the state of Kansas has canceled the school year for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they'll all do that very soon.
Yep.
Very soon.
Yep. A couple of things specific for our Michigan listeners, a couple of things you need to know. Meijer Corporation has now limited their store hours. I know a lot of people go to Meijer for everything. So Meijer stores are now going to be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, and they're going to close from 10 to 8 so that they can scrub the stores down really efficiently and be able to restock shelves, because right now that's not happening. Meijer is also going to have special shopping for seniors and people with underlying health conditions. Those hours are going to be 7 to 8 a.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. Shopping for first responders is going to be from 7 to 8 a.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. That includes fire, police, doctors, nurses, paramedics. They're also including Meijer Associates, so that's really good that they're helping out there.
I think that's great. Keep going.
Yep. One more thing I want to mention to our listeners in Michigan. The Attorney General, Dana Nessel, who has been a guest on our show in the past, has set up a price gouging hotline to report businesses that you suspect are gouging customers for needed supplies like face masks, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, stuff like that. Let me give you that phone number. It's 877-765-8388. Again, that number is 877-765-8388. You can also file a complaint online by going to michigan.gov/AG complaints. Again, that's michigan.gov/AG complaints. And they've already nicked a few businesses on this, haven't they?
Yeah.
I've got the story right here. This is Paul Egan writing for the Detroit Free Press. This is dated March 19th out of Lansing. Big box retailer Menard says it mistakenly placed too high a price on face masks sold in its stores and is apologizing to customers after Attorney General Dana Nessel sent a warning letter about price gouging during the coronavirus crisis. Spokesman Jeff Abbott said, quote, "We are all working under a great deal of anxiety and stress and believe that in normal times this most likely would have never happened. We are very sorry for this mistake." End of quote. They have also said that they will offer a higher rebate to customers who bought the overpriced masks, because they were talking a $20 rebate. Now, here's the thing with Menards. That rebate is only good for use in the store. They don't send you a check. They send you something that looks like a check, but you can only use it in their own stores. It's like the company currency back in the day.
Right. So they end up in their coffers getting the original overpriced sale, every penny of it.
Exactly. Let me continue the story here. Nessel sent Menards a cease and desist letter Tuesday, a precursor to possible legal action, after her office received 18 complaints from consumers about the retailer selling overpriced bleach, face masks, and other items. Abbott said the company's marketing team noticed that customers in the Midwest were snapping up dust masks, which are often used to protect lungs during home improvement projects and commercial construction projects, quote, the minute we put them online for sale, end of quote. Surgical masks have been in high demand as a possible protection against the coronavirus, and it is likely residents purchased dust masks as a substitute when there were no surgical masks to be found. Abbott said that the concern was, quote, our Midwestern customers who really needed dust masks were unable to buy them, end of quote. He then adds this, quote, in an attempt to fix this, the team came up with the brilliant idea to raise the online price to $39.95 per 2-pack of dust masks and experiment with a large rebate offer, thinking this would restrict dust mask sales to our Midwestern customers as rebates can only be spent in our stores and not online, end of quote. He did not say what the price of the masks was before the change, but Nessel said in her news release that items were in some cases being sold for double their normal prices. Abbott said, quote, our intention was to offer around a $35 rebate, but when designing the ad, a $20 placeholder was used on the ad template and posted by mistake on our website. In the chaos of this crisis, the error went unnoticed for 2 days, but when discovered was immediately removed from our site, end of quote. Do you really believe this?
Yeah, exactly. If bull press, you'd have a 50-piece band. That's like the television station. That's like the television station that somehow in Illinois showed a day before the election results. Picture Biden, picture Bernie, had the percentages, had Biden winning by, 10, 12. And it just came in during a commercial. And their excuse sounded very reminiscent to Menard's there. Yeah. Well, it was a practice round. No, it wasn't a practice round. If anybody is courageous enough to admit it, it was proof of absolute post-fixing, in race car or in horse racing, results before the post were given. And that result is indicative of a system that had it already established who was going to win. And, this doctrine, the shock doctrine, politics, it's just not political people that take advantage of emergencies and crisis. The business world as well.
Of course.
How about, just as an example, the airline industry asking for massive bailouts. Yet the truth is, that the profit they made in the last 5 years, they handed $45 billion to the stockholders in the form of stock purchases, but nonetheless, what percentage of the profit does that represent?
Quite a bit. I can't do the math immediately, but that's quite a bit.
But now they got their handout.
Of course
they do. That's like the relative that gambles the money away you give them, buys drugs with it, and then comes to you asking for money for the mortgage.
Unbelievable. These people are just something else. But Jack, it was just a mistake on the part of Menards. They didn't really mean to charge that much for face masks. Yeah. Splat. And it wasn't just face masks. Didn't they charge $8 a bottle for bleach or some crazy? Bleach, and then they tried to say, oh, well, that was higher strength bleach. No, it wasn't.
It's like Trump claiming, well, we didn't get the test from the World Health Organization. We wanted a better, more sophisticated test.
Yeah.
Now
listen to this. Continuing with the Detroit Free Press story, Abbott said those who purchase the mask will receive a $39.95 rebate when they apply for their $20 rebate. Quote, essentially getting the mask for free, end of quote. No, because that money is still in
the store.
Yeah, you still have to spend it in the store.
Yeah.
Nessel spokeswoman.
So they get the money.
Yeah. Exactly. Nessel spokeswoman Kelly Rossman McKinney said that based on Menard's statement, they acknowledge overpricing face masks many are buying in an effort to protect themselves against COVID-19, and Nessel's office looks forward to, quote, receiving a direct response to our concerns from Menard's and will evaluate it at that time, end of quote. She also added this, quote, this is a perfect example of how important it is to report price gouging the minute you see any overpriced item, end of quote. Menard's has pushed back at the allegation it charged overpriced bleach, saying the price it charged was reasonable. Nessel had received 823 complaints of price gouging during the coronavirus pandemic as of late Wednesday afternoon, according to a news release. Her office sent another cease and desist letter Thursday to Warren-based retailer Norcan Incorporated for allegedly selling a 10-pack of face masks for nearly $80 when the normal price is about $23, the news release said. A Norcan official could not immediately be reached for comment. So, there you go. They were on the Today Show Friday morning. They were talking about how there's people scamming others now.
Now, forget being reached for comment. Let's ask to reach them to punch them in the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, really, how about the people who bought huge amounts of toilet paper and now trying to sell it for $30 a package? They're out there. I've seen them on online.
Well,
I wouldn't mind tracking one down and giving a piece of a knuckle sandwich. I mean, really, Darren.
Yeah.
How lecherous. How frigging lecherous. We have all these stories of people working, risking their life, helping mankind, doing things bravely, but then you always have this element, and they come out like vultures. They use an emergency to pad their own pocket. Despicable.
Yep. We have
this whole thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Is showing the underbelly of our society and the underbelly of the Trump administration, the underbelly of the agencies that are up on that stage. If you really are paying attention, you can see exactly where we're at.
It's showing the deep underbelly of late-stage capitalism. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, Menard's was there before this disaster. You're just getting a peek, folks.
Yeah, and by the way, the Menard family are big contributors to Republicans.
No surprise.
All you got to do, folks, go to the FEC.gov website, the Federal Election Commission. It's right there. It's easy to find. It's not fake news. Something else that isn't fake news. I want to read this. And this is one of the rare times that we actually cite an article from Fox Propaganda Channel. But I've got this. This is Dom Colicchio writing. Senator Dianne Feinstein of California and 3 of her Senate colleagues sold off stocks worth millions of dollars in the days before the coronavirus outbreak crashed the market, according to reports. The data is listed on a U.S. Senate website containing financial disclosures from Senate members. Feinstein, who serves as the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and her husband sold between $1.5 to $6 million in stock in California biotech company Allogene Therapeutics between January 31st and February 18th. That's according to a report from the New York Times. When the Times questioned the senator, a spokesman for the Democrat said that she was not directly involved in the sale. Her spokesman, Tom Menser, told the New York Times, quote, all of Senator Feinstein's assets are in a blind trust. She has no involvement in her husband's financial decisions, end of quote.
Blind trust means they are sure. They're banking on the fact that the public is blind. That's their trust.
Exactly. Let me continue here. Reports identified the 3 other senators as Richard Burr of North Carolina, Kelly Loeffler of Georgia, and Jim Inhofe, Oklahoma, all Republicans.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, Inhofe, the guy that brought a snowball onto the Senate floor to prove that climate change was a hoax.
How about speaking of the underbelly, how about the Republican who would not vote for paid absence because you lose your job, named Congressman Andy Biggs? He said Monday in a radio interview produced by the Christian conservative group, the Family Research Council, that he voted against the family's first Coronavirus Response Act on Saturday because it included provisions for domestic partnership, including same-sex relationships.
Yeah.
So we're not going to put money in anybody's hands who is gay and cancel the bill.
Yeah.
I know you got a special place in your heart, Darren, for these kind of phonies, but the underbelly gets clearer and clearer.
Yeah.
These guys are coming out of the network.
Yeah, Louis Gohmert stalled the bill, too, earlier in the week. But I guess he got provisions that were fine by him, but now this other guy has decided to halt things. Let me continue.
And then the Democrats didn't do much. Before we move on with that, we finally settled on, 20% of all people that lose their jobs. They're not from the big companies where the majority of people work. It's not McDonald's, not Target. It is little well, 20% total will take advantage of this. It's only temporary. God forbid that we actually have a policy that would extend. No, it's a meager amount. I think the Dems, as always, roll over real easy so they can get out. Hey, we got a bill. We got a bill. It's empty, but we got a bill.
Let me continue the article here. Richard Burr, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, used more than 30 transactions to dump between $628,000 and $1.72 million worth of stock on February 13th. That is according to ProPublica. The report said the transactions involved a significant percentage of the senator's holdings and took place about a week before the impact of the virus outbreak sent stock prices plunging to the point where gains made during Donald Trump's term in office were largely erased. A Burr spokesman said, quote, Senator Burr filed a financial disclosure form for personal transactions made several weeks before the U.S. and financial markets showed signs of volatility due to the growing coronavirus outbreak. As the situation continues to evolve daily, he has been deeply concerned by the steep and sudden toll this pandemic is taking on our economy. End of quote. Now let me continue here. Burr was an author of the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act, a law that helps determine the federal response to situations such as the coronavirus outbreak. Again, that's according to reporting from ProPublica. Burr's office would not comment on what kind of information Burr might have received about coronavirus prior to his stock sales, the outlet reported. However, National Public Radio reported earlier this week that Senator Burr made more ominous comments about coronavirus behind closed doors last month. At a February 27th meeting of business leaders in Washington, he said this, quote, There's one thing I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything that we have seen in recent history. It is probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. End of quote. That's what he said to business leaders in closed-door meeting. These are business leaders from North Carolina. They're part of a group, and I forget what the name of it is. But in order to get membership to this group, this is according to their own website, you have to pay dues of anywhere between $500 to $10,000.
Are you reading from Rolling Stone, Darren?
No, this is Fox Propaganda Channel. Let me continue here real quick. Loeffler was appointed to the Senate in December by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp after incumbent Senator Johnny Isakson resigned because of health issues, despite allies of Donald Trump having urged Kemp to select Representative Doug Collins instead. Loeffler and her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, who is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, sold stock January 24th, the same day she sat in on a briefing from two members of Trump's coronavirus task force. That is according to a report from the Daily Beast. Between that day and February 14th, the couple sold stock worth a total between $1.2 and $3.1 million, according to that report.
According to Rolling Stone, the people that were sitting at the luncheon that this Burr sat at when he warned these people and gave these inside information resulting in the sale of the stock, that just a few of the people, a small gathering at his table, gave $100,000 to Burr's election campaign.
Yes, they did.
This is the inside club. This is the one Carlin told us about. The club that you're not a part of.
It's a big club and you ain't in it.
Trump is blowing his orange lips to the tune that, hey, I got this under control. Everything's taken care of. 5 outbreaks, 5 people. They're probably gone now. Expect miracles. While that's going on, these filthy scumbags are looking at it objectively and bailing out of the stock market. You can't get a better look at the underbelly. You can't see it. And I don't care if it's Feinstein. There's going to be plenty of Dems. First of all, how this woman in Georgia, she was worth how many millions of dollars? This senator from Georgia?
No, her husband is the chair of the New York Stock Exchange. So just think about how many millions of dollars they're worth.
You Georgians down there, you got your head up your butt when you are electing the wife of the stock exchange to represent the people in Georgia? Let's just start at the rudimentary level.
Well, she was appointed. That's the problem. She was appointed by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp.
Well, that's the same club, folks.
Yeah,
and we're not only not in it, we don't know what they do. We don't have any of their minutes from their meetings. We do here.
Yep. Let me continue here. In addition to the sales, they also purchased stock in a maker of software that helps people work at home just before millions of Americans were forced to leave their offices because of the outbreak. Loeffler slammed the Daily Beast report as, quote, a ridiculous and baseless attack, end of quote. She said that in a pair of late-night tweets. She also wrote this, quote, this is a ridiculous and baseless attack. I do not make investment decisions for my portfolio. Investment decisions are made by multiple third-party advisors without my or my husband's knowledge or involvement. As confirmed in the periodic transaction report to Senate Ethics, I was informed of these purchases and sales on February 16th, 2020, 3 weeks after they were made, end of quote. Really? It's rigged. As Carlin said, the table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice, and nobody seems to care. Maybe you better start waking up.
Here's what one of these so-called mainstream media progressive screens should show. A split screen on CNN. On one side, you'd have the senator giving early school warnings way before they close, saying there will be, I'm sure, times that communities like here in North Carolina have a transmission rate, but they're going to close the schools. And then he tells the business people, don't you travel. Don't send your business cronies on business trips. Don't travel. This is so early. And then on the other side of the screen, on the split side, you would have Trump sitting there telling Americans that the COVID-19 is going to disappear. That's verbatim. Mm-hmm. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And then go over with the table back where Burr is telling people to get out of the stock market. You can't get a better ad for the corporate-run country called the United States anymore than that right there. Who's really been in the crosshairs for Trump? Who's he really cared about? You go back, and from the outset, his concern was to save the stock market. He has been terrified because if you take those numbers away from his so-called success, he doesn't have a lot to stand on. So you're getting monies poured into, trillions of dollars poured into the stock market, airlines bailed out. You're going to get more gratuities than in the last crash because if the stock market implodes, Trump implodes. He knows it. Watch for that effort on his part and really scratch your head when you see the numbers. Make sure you can be feel that there's a voracious number. When they put the screen up at CNN tonight at 5 o'clock and it has a death rate, you've got to ask yourself, is that valid? Is that a number that you really have confidence in? We can see Russia fudging the numbers. We know that India and Russia are doing it, and it's not to his political longevity to have a terrible result from this crisis. They want to push it down the road while he appears twice a day. They are frantically trying to save Trump on this because he is so exposed. I'm worried about people dying, but I'm also worried about the cover-up to protect Trump that's going on right now.
Let me continue here. Imhoff sold as much as $400,000 in stock all on January 27th in companies such as PayPal, Apple, and real estate company Brookfield Asset Management. Again, that is according to the New York Times. This is just something else. Once again, more for the rich, less for everybody else.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the mantra. You cannot expect the business of America, which one politician said is business, to suffer. We can lose a few 100,000 people, but you can't allow there to be a loss in the business world in any way. So do everything they can to save it.
Absolutely. I want to read a little bit of this here, Jack. This is an op-ed that was written for The Guardian by former Michigan gubernatorial candidate Abdul El-Sayed, who is a doctor, by the way. This was published on March 19th. As the global COVID-19 pandemic bears down on cities and towns across the country and the world, municipal and state leaders are scrambling to mitigate the spread and flatten the curve. To be sure, the social distancing interventions, including closing schools, eliminating mass gatherings, even shuttering small businesses, are necessary right now. Yet policymakers have been reticent to fully enact them because of the sweeping economic and social consequences they'll have for so many in our society. Yet the very position in which we find ourselves, caught between slowing the outbreak to save lives and slow-walking our interventions to save livelihoods, suggests a deeper truth about our society right now. Indeed, COVID-19 isn't the only epidemic we are suffering. The other is slower and more difficult to identify, though it has laid the groundwork for the coronavirus. It is an epidemic of insecurity. And he goes on to talk about the spread of this disease. I'm going to skip around a little bit. He says, this is where insecurity comes in. Because of it, we as hosts are uniquely susceptible. Nearly 10% of Americans are uninsured, and for those who have insurance, the average deductible is over $5,000. Because it renews annually, a March pandemic means that fewer people will visit the doctor for the constellation of symptoms for COVID-19, a fever and cough, so commonly experienced and necessarily ignored by people who can't afford to pay for health care. Our lack of health care access means that we are less likely to seek health care, more likely to unknowingly spread coronavirus.
All right, Darren, if that's the case, are Americans aware that Bernie's healthcare plan was the absolute antidote for situations just like this?
I hope they know. Unfortunately, it didn't reflect in the polls, which we'll talk about that as something separate. But
what you just read is the perfect prescription for a person to sit up and say, hey, we wouldn't be in this dire situation if we'd adapted Bernie's policies. As a matter of fact, Trump right now is borrowing from Bernie's fiscal policies. He's used a lot of almost verbatim.
Oh, exactly.
So why didn't you vote down in Florida for Bernie Sanders, folks? Were you down at the beach with the teens? Not worried about it?
Yeah. And in the op-ed piece, he continues to talk about people who work in the gig economy, waiting tables, driving for Uber or Lyft, and a lot of them have student debt. So that's another stress on them. He goes on, I'm going to read this here. He says, but the epidemic of insecurity itself is a function of the environment in which we live, interlocking systems of government and economics that have frozen us out. I think that kind of sums it up right there. He continues, but that's a pretty good summation right there.
Yeah, the summation is real succinct. Mm-hmm. And that is, in fact, the rich. I give you one example that nobody wants to talk much about is Kevin Durant getting a test for the coronavirus, him and other teammates.
Mm-hmm.
A reporter asked Trump point blank how that could be. His answer, and I'm paraphrasing here, was, well, that's kind of the way the world is. Oh, really? Yeah, that's the way the world is. So you just accept it, that somehow the rich and powerful can step in front or get in front of this life-saving test. When the guy with a family, he doesn't get it.
And that's just how it is. Like Carlin says, we know what the rich want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interests.
So are you telling me, Darren, that Bill Gates and his wife aren't going to get in the family station wagon and get into a line somewhere and wait for a day and a half to get tested?
No.
You tell me they'll get some kind of benefit? I don't want to sound like this is totally, completely silly. Of course they will.
I'm sure they got somebody doing their grocery shopping for them. God, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Real quickly, I know you wanted to touch on, we just mentioned the Florida primaries. Who else? It was Florida, Arizona, and Illinois went through with the primaries in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Let's be honest. The numbers indicate it was not a good turnout on those days. And, of course, who would have expected it? A little rainy weather is one thing. A life-threatening virus is another thing. So the numbers weren't really indicative of what you'd call democracy. But that's no worry. The Democratic Party knew they had to get in the books so they could find his head, so lock it down while you can, because who knows? He may make a few more gaffes. He may do something really stupid. And Bernie may gain traction, which is a health care plan in this crisis. So get that primary and push it through. Forget about who might be exposed. That's not a worry. The DNC never should have had that election. Many people said it. They went ahead and had it anyway. Now, I don't know what the results were in Florida. What was it, 63%? It was an overwhelming payday for Biden and his DNC made sure they weren't going to miss the chance. They were going to get it in.
I know we also want to talk about real quickly, Tulsi Gabbard dropped out of the race on Thursday, and you think, yeah, she's progressive, right? She should be throwing her support behind Bernie Sanders, right? Wrong! She threw her support behind Joe Biden. Folks, we told you this for the last several months. Not a progressive. Not a progressive. We told you so again. Not a progressive.
No, not a progressive, and the same species as Elizabeth Warren. There hasn't been a single Democratic candidate who has endorsed Bernie. The field out, I don't know how many it was, 24? Not a single one. And the Tulsi people will say, well, she always said she'd vote for the nominee, or endorse the nominee, I mean.
Yeah.
Biden's not the nominee. And if her and Warren, back after Super Tuesday, would have endorsed Bernie, you wouldn't have had Florida. You wouldn't have had Illinois, with or without the virus. So they wait, and he's weakened, and then they go, well, I guess we'll endorse the front runner. Well, if he'd have stood up, and he should have, if he'd endorsed the only progressive out there, and you claim to have progressive DNA, then it wouldn't be so bleak for Bernie right now. But it's self-fulfilling prophecy. They wait until he's way behind, then they jump on the wagon. And she sells herself being so courageous. She sells herself, remember when she put her finger in the eye of the party back here a few months ago, claiming, that it was corrupt and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But then she lined right up the establishment line and kisses the coronation ring of the establishment's candidate, Joe, I can't speak straight, Biden.
Yeah, he did it. Oh, go ahead.
A complete fraud in a speech the other day. Did you see that on Facebook? That he held him off the podium. He just completely lost where he was at.
Oh, was that the speech that he gave? I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, where his wife had to pull him off the stage.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Even worse than that, did you see the internet town hall that he had earlier in the week, that they had to cut the feed after only a few minutes because he wouldn't stay in one place and was wandering around?
And these are easy times right now. He hasn't been at a campaign rally for days. Let's extrapolate into the future where it's how many months of grueling campaign with your flank exposed every day to Trump's tweets. We're talking massacre. If you have any compassion, Democrats, establishment Democrats, don't let Biden go out and get his face punched in. Because that's what it's going to be. 4 more years, because you've got to have your corporate-sucking candidate put in place, whose issues, his history of issues and policies are as conservative as any moderate Republican existing. And this is what they're going to flop out and roll out. Some people think he's just a cover band. The real candidate would be the vice president. That's what I've heard that theory. That's gruesome to even propose that, but it's more sensible than making Joe Biden your candidate against Donald Trump.
Yes, it does.
That's more worrisome than the virus, Darren.
Yeah. Well,
equally worrisome.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of the virus, I want to get this story in real quick before we go into Hammer Time. This is Justin McCurry writing for The Guardian out of Tokyo, Japan. Medical authorities in China have said a drug used in Japan to treat new strains of influenza appeared to be effective in coronavirus patients, Japanese media said Wednesday. Zhang Jinmin, an official at China's Science and Technology Ministry, said favipiravir, developed by a subsidiary of Fujifilm, had produced encouraging outcomes in clinical trials in Wuhan and Shenzhen involving 340 patients. So I'm hoping that the FDA starts fast-tracking this, but not 12 to 18 months. It needs to be a lot quicker, like now, today.
Yeah, that's the only way it's going to be stopped.
It certainly is.
That's what it's going to take. I'm looking at numbers here. There's 56 people in the hospital I think it's in Royal Oak. The number of people already in our own state that are in hospital beds using ventilators, and the shortage is drastic.
Yep.
From actual little dabs they need for the test. Obviously, the ventilators are full. I mean, what? They have 160,000, and we're looking at possible. What did the guy say in California? 25 million.
25 million just in California.
I mean, it's not even close. If I hear one more Republican say, I hope, Trump did not close down Obama's epidemic panel. I don't even know the actual acronym for it.
Yeah.
He most certainly did.
Out
of spite, like if we're going to anything Trump or Obama ever made, just out of spite. That should be hammered every single press conference. Why'd you do that? Give us another answer. Because he hasn't given an answer. They haven't even admitted it.
Yep. And General Motors and Ford have gone to Trump and said, hey, we will convert our assembly lines over to produce ventilators if you need us to. And he's told them, we're not there yet. Yes, we are, actually.
Passive.
Again, this is what happens when you elect Republicans to federal office. Period. End of story. Unbelievable. Yeah. Tell you what's more unbelievable, Jack. We got to go into our next segment here because we are starting to run short on time, but we do have to play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. We have set a record this week. 13 winners this week. We're just going to rattle them off real quick because it just takes too much to do so. The first one, Kid Rock. According to theblast.com, Kid Rock has a restaurant. A guy by the name of Steve Smith owns it. It's called Kid Rock's Big Ass Honky Tonk Rock and Roll Steakhouse in Nashville, Tennessee. Davidson County in Tennessee has ordered a shutdown of all bars, and Kid Rock's bar is refusing to close. So he's winner number one. Winner number two, according to Pathos.com, Pastor Perry Stone, a prominent conservative Christian preacher, claims that the coronavirus is a satanic attempt to kill older Christians so socialism can take over in the United States.
Wow.
Number three, this is pinknews.co.uk. This is Patrick Kelleher writing on March 12th. A right-wing pastor has said that only pansies wash their hands in response to the coronavirus and said the churches that have shut down have no balls. This is televangelist Jonathan Shuttlesworth.
Is that the same idiot that said, come on back to church if you die going to church?
No, different one. Different guy. I'm getting to him. Here's what he said, according to LGBTQ Nation. Quote, shame on every European full gospel church. Bunch of sissies that shut down during this thing. End of quote. Then he said this, quote, Catholic Church not having holy water in the lobby? How holy is the water then? That should be a sign to you that your whole religion's a fraud. Any faith that doesn't work in real life is a fake faith, totally fake. End of quote. He then continues, quote, if you're putting out pamphlets and telling everybody to use Purell before they come into the sanctuary and don't greet anyone, you should just turn in your ministry credentials and burn your church down. Turn it into a casino or something. You're a loser, bunch of panties, no balls, got neutered somewhere along the line and don't even realize it. End of quote.
That's a man of God.
Yep. Number four, Sky Palma writes this for Raw Story. A South Florida megachurch pastor wants his congregation to know that even though the coronavirus continues to spread, they should be coming to church to worship anyway, and any fear that they might have of packed spaces is coming from a demonic spirit. This is Pastor Guillermo Maldonado. This is according to a report at the Miami Herald.
He wants you in church. He needs his money.
Yep. Quote, do you believe God would bring his people to his house to be contagious with the virus? Of course not. This service is usually packed, so now they're home in a cave afraid of the virus, that you want to transmit the virus. If we die for Christ. If we live for Christ. So what do you lose? End of quote. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they were pretty religious back in the bubonic plague, and I'm sure they prayed incessantly. It didn't work.
Yep. Number five, Sky Palma again writing, this time for Dead State. In a recent broadcast on his Victory Live TV show, televangelist Kenneth Copeland warned his followers to keep donating to the church even if they lose their jobs as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. Quote, hey, your job is not your source. If it is, you're in trouble. Jesus is your source. whatever you do right now, don't you stop tithing. Don't you stop sowing offerings. End of quote. He added that even if the church is closed down, people should, quote, email it in there, text give, or something. End of quote.
Maybe some should bail out these evangelists. They don't have to beg people to go into church and expose themselves.
Just like Carlin said, God's all powerful, but just not good with money. Copeland continues, quote, you get your tithe in that church if you have to go take it down there and stick it under the door or something. You get that tithe in that church, you get that offering in that church, and then you go home and you do what you're supposed to do. End of quote.
Which is to be a dumb sheep. Remember, the number two symbols for Christians are fish and sheep.
Yep.
That should tell you a lot.
Yep. The last 8 douchebags this week are the Republican senators who rejected a stimulus bill to provide American workers with paid sick leave. They are Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, Jim Lankford of Oklahoma, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Tim Scott of South Carolina, and Mike Lee of Utah. All of them. So 13 of them. It is a record, all-time record. So to all 13 of you losers, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You all need to stop being douchebags.
The stores are empty. The shelves are empty. But here at Southpaws, we have a whole rack, a whole shelf of douchebags if you should need them. 13 today alone.
Yep, we most certainly do. And, Jack, we've kind of gotten to that time that we have to go. A Bernie supporter who was friends with a lot of my mutual friends took his own life because he could not get his cataract surgery because of the coronavirus outbreak. If you have young ones or if you're triggered by suicidal idolations, you need to shut the radio off right now. I'm going to read this here. Wayne Smith posted this at 2:13 a.m. on March 17th. So today I end my life for various reasons. The cataracts are getting much worse and no help there, with the current coronavirus likely canceling any elective surgeries, if not outright collapsing society. Eyes get so sore even after just a few minutes screen time now. This pandemic also obviously ends any and all hope I might have to sell my short stories or my novel. A small, even petty dream true, but also the only reason I have for living. No, I do not have any symptoms of the actual virus. The pandemic is simply peripheral. Social isolation is the story of my life, and I spent my entire childhood with a sense of vague impending doom anyway. Frankly, thought about and planned my suicide for years now. Losing my eyesight leaves me just no credible reason to go on living. Biden as likely nominee adds to my despair. The eye and lens soreness is almost immediate now. Have to do screen time in small doses. As the blurry vision and soreness gets worse, I am denied the pleasures, the escapes I once enjoyed. A rabbinic student wrote an editorial in the local newspaper the other day that each person has value. Each person is a unique world. Quoted some rabbinic text about, he whosoever kills a person kills a world. My world has always been dark, lonely, and overdue to end. Childhood and adolescence were defined by bullying, funerals, and fear. So I would like to dedicate today's episode of this show to Wayne Smith. In the meantime, I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack.
For our announcer, Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment, and please be safe out there.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment, all rights reserved.